It is 8 o'clock p.m. We're going to talk about investing. This is part 3 of how to succeed in the creative industry. I am dog tired. I've been on set for the last couple days. But you know what? This YouTube channel was something that I committed to, so I knew that I was going to have to come home, and because I had a busy week, I was going to have to sit down, write the script, and edit this video to be able to have it released by 10 a.m. tomorrow. That was my deadline, and I'm sticking to it. So here we are. I've been thinking about this topic a lot this week. How to invest, it's one of the most ambiguous topics out of any of these 4 that I'm discussing in this series. It's one of the most ambiguous topics in the film industry. I think very few people talk about how to tangibly invest in this industry. And if you know me personally, you know that I've invested a lot of money in trying different equipment out and trying to see what I can make money with. I've experimented a lot with different things. So I have a little bit to say about this, but I just want to, throw another disclaimer out. I talked about this a little bit in the first video. If you're a professional who's had a lot more experience than me, this series is not aimed toward you. This whole channel is just a documentation of, my personal experience, what's worked best for me, what hasn't, the mistakes that I've made, the wins that I've had. The thing that's both beautiful and infuriating about the creative industry is that you can follow someone's steps exactly, and you will never end up in even remotely the same place, because there's so many micro decisions and micro factors that are playing in every minute of that person's life. Conversations that they're having, whether they're getting up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. to grind the gear, whether they're exercising, what their mental health looks like, what their background looks like, what their financial success looks like, what their success outside the industry looks like, their network, their network's opportunities that they've been presented, all of these things you just can't replicate. And so you should never buy someone's course or listen to their real life experience with the intention of following that experience as a framework and guide to achieve your own success, because it'll never work out that way. Creative industry is so diverse, with people from all sorts of different backgrounds, like socioeconomic backgrounds and religious backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds, and different points in their career. Some professionals that I work with on a regular basis have had 1 or 2 careers before they got into the film industry. Some of them drafted into the military and then went to work as a contractor for some other industry and then got into film. You have all of these different people, all of these different stages of life, who come in and they make their own connections and they go about it in their own way, and you end up with this beautiful amalgamation of all these different types of people that end up in this field. And I think that's really cool. But the hard part about that is there's no real framework. You really have to just watch and learn from as many different people's life experience as you can, and then look at your own experience and try and formulate what the best path and the best places for you to invest for yourself are going to be. So again, this is one of the most ambiguous topics yet, and specifically for the film industry. I think because so many people enter into this field as an artist first, and they think that, film industry is about creating art. If I can get really good at being an artist, I can succeed. From what I've seen, success in a creative industry depends heavily on your business knowledge. And I'm saying business knowledge as in an all-encompassing, term for your education, your skill set, your mindset, your networking abilities, your traits, your skills, your beliefs, all of this stuff that have to do with your success in any business specifically apply to the film industry, especially. So your ability to understand how money works, how economics work, how politics work, how to build new relationships, and how to invest your time and money to level up. I feel like most people think that this is like a game of checkers. One move at a time. They think, if I just become the best at insert your desired crew position here, the best director of photography or the best production designer or the best director. They think I'll be successful. But the people who are achieving the most success in this industry are the people who are playing it like a game of chess. They're thinking multiple moves ahead, and they're diversifying the way that they invest their time and their money into different outlets to create the best opportunities for themselves, investing into strategic areas to level themselves up. As humans, we like to celebrate success stories, right? And so we see those overnight success stories that, people who broke out and their career just took off. And we think wow, great for them. They really got their break. They got lucky, whatever it is. When the reality is the time, the consistency, and the hard work that those people put in day after day to build a solid foundation for themselves so that when they got the opportunity that allowed them to take off, they were ready. When a producer calls you to offer you that dream job, you have to have done the legwork, the investing, to be ready now, before you get that call. You can't start that process as soon as you get the call because you'll lose the job. You have to invest now in building a solid foundation to prepare yourself to be ready for when that opportunity comes. And that's what those seemingly overnight success stories have done that we don't see. It wasn't luck. It was simply building a solid foundation of skills, traits, and beliefs over a long period of time so that they were ready when that call came through. So be patient, but be consistent, because the most dangerous combination for success is work ethic and time. Okay, so again, back to my personal experience. I've spent a lot of time and money dabbling and trying to learn how this game works, how to invest in the right ways to see my own success take off. And, some things I'll admit, I probably weren't the best choice. Some things I think were a really good choice in hindsight, and if I could go back, I would 100% do them again. I have, again, I've been in this for about 7 years full time, and I have owned just about every single major camera brand. Nikon, Canon, Sony, Red, Blackmagic, and Arri at this point. I've shot on just about every single major camera system there is. I started in this career as a photographer with a Nikon D80. I didn't even buy that myself. My grandfather gave it to me. Then I upgraded into the Canon ecosystem, 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV. What you're seeing right now is actually the Canon EOS R. Then I sold all my Canon gear and switched completely into the Sony ecosystem. I shot on the A7 III and A7S III, A6000. Then after a few years with those mirrorless systems, I decided to start investing in the cinema line of cameras. So I bought a Red Komodo, and then in addition to that, I bought a Red Gemini, bought into the whole Red ecosystem, and then made the jump to an Arri Alexa Mini. Here's the main thing that I learned, when you're investing in equipment. Live within your means. The reality is that a skilled cinematographer can create a good image with any of the systems that are currently on the market. Like the sensors across the board from every major brand, even Nikon, are almost identical, and the nuanced differences are so subtle. A skilled colorist and a skilled DP will be able to achieve pretty much whatever result they want with any camera system. Now, some of you DPs may light up my comments for saying that. I do understand the nuances, but I'm just saying for the majority of people who aren't trained professionals knowing what to look for in the differences of dynamic range and color, probably not going to notice the difference as long as you light it well, you have good glass, and pretty much as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, so that being said, get yourself the best camera that you can afford while living within your means. I would highly recommend not putting yourself out into a ton of debt that you have to scrape by to be able to afford, because the film industry, all creative industries go like this. It's like a series of feast and famines, and it takes a long time. Well, I was gonna say it takes a long time to figure that out, but honestly, I don't think we'll ever figure it out because it comes at such randomness. Like even last year, we had a ton of strikes, and people who were 30 or 40 years into their career were out of work. So I'll revise that to say the film industry is like all over the place. So getting yourself into debt on equipment with consistent payments in an industry that does not have consistent payouts means that you have to make sure you have a buffer. I would recommend just focusing on getting the best camera that you can, and then investing in your skill set to make up the difference. So I decided that there's like 4 main categories, or pillars, if you will, when you invest in your business in the creative industry. So the first thing you can do is you can invest in your network. That is the people that you know that bring you work. The second way you can invest is in equipment. The third would be building up a business, like a production company or an agency. And the fourth would be investing in yourself. That is your skills, traits, and beliefs that make up who you are. So ideally, you'd invest in all of this, but be strategic about the way you leverage your time and your money depending on where you are in your career. For instance, capital is the fuel of investing. So if you don't have any money, you should start by investing in your network and yourself. Remember the Dunning-Kruger effect from the last video. It takes time to get through that valley of despair and keep rising up to see success. So just remember, if you're not seeing immediate results, but you're consistently investing, you will achieve success over time. Your progress itself can be your success, and while you're building a strong foundation. Okay, so you can invest in your network and relationships. We talked about that a lot in the first couple videos, so I won't go over that too much, but that's the first way. The second way is you can invest in equipment, but there's so many pitfalls here, and you have to navigate it really carefully. There's a lot of camera systems that don't hold their value over a long period of time, because they're always coming out with new technology and replacing the old thing. Unless you have the means to go for the best, the thing that would rent out consistently, I'd encourage you just to get the best camera system that you can afford while living in your means, and rent when you need something bigger. So another way you can invest is in your business. And that can be building a production company, building up an agency, or building up your personal brand. And I'm going to go back on something that I said in one of the previous videos, because as I've done a little bit more research on this, I've realized the distinction between personal brand and business. So I'm going to refer to your personal business as your personal brand from here on out. So like Robert T. Kiyosaki, he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, he made this great little diagram. It's just a circle. It's divided into 4 parts. I'm loosely paraphrasing, but it's like the quadrant of wealth building. Okay, so the first category is you're an employee, you're working for someone else. And then you move into self-employed, freelancer, which is what most of us in the creative industry are. And then you move into business owner, and finally into investor. And I heard this really great distinction between business owner and self-employed recently that I wanted to highlight. I think a lot of people in the creative industry are guilty of thinking that they are building a business. They bring on a couple people and they form a team, and it starts to look like a thing. You know, they've got a logo and a business name and all that. When you're building a business, you're building a system of processes around a brand that can then be automated. So the idea behind building a business, a successful business, is building something that can function without you. And a lot of self-employed people, when they bring on a team and they create a brand name and they start to build this thing, they think, okay, well now I'm building up a business. But as creatives, we're guilty of not wanting to relinquish control of the creative process. So when you're still doing everything yourself, the shooting, the editing, and keeping your hands in all the little baskets and not delegating anything, you're really still just a freelancer at that point. So when you invest in building a business, I would encourage you to think about it from that mindset. Ask yourself, do I want to build a brand that I can then replace myself with? Because if you want to build a successful production company or agency, eventually you'll have to make that choice. You'll have to make the choice to step back and hire people under you to do those jobs, the creative jobs, so that you can keep an eye on building the best process-based business and overarching, and keep kind of the eagle eye view. Otherwise, it just won't be very successful. And if you want to work as a freelancer in the film industry for the rest of your career and do one specific thing, that's totally fine. Just don't make the mistake of trying to start a production company or an agency thinking that that's the route to get there, because it's not. Finally, you can invest in yourself. And that is the strategy that I've been using on myself over the last year or so. The first few years, I bought a lot of equipment. I invested a lot of money into equipment and building that out. But I got to a certain point where enough was enough. I've started to develop this belief that because the camera systems are so good, I would be better off putting all of my spare time and money into investing back into myself, because I can always rent a camera system. But again, thinking about those 4 pillars, like I'm building up 3 of them really heavily, but the fourth one, which is myself, is still lacking, and it's becoming like this barrier that's holding me back. So over the last year, I've started to take a really hard look at like, what are the barriers that are holding me back? What are the skills that I'm lacking that are impacting my ability to succeed? I have a lot of self-doubt. I have a lot of imposter syndrome. I don't consider myself someone who's very charismatic. I get really anxious at the idea of going to like big networking events. So a lot of these like social skills and things that may come more naturally to others, I have realized are barriers for me because I'm not investing time in improving them. The more books and podcasts and courses that I take, I keep seeing this reoccurring theme, no matter what skill I'm learning, and that's practice, practice, practice. And I know it's a very simple thing to theorize, but it's a very hard thing to execute. If you want gains, you have to go to the gym and you have to put the reps in under the bar, and it sucks. They take a lot of hard work, and they take hard work consistently because you don't see results overnight. So how can you expect your education, your skill set, your experience, your character traits to improve overnight with just one course? Like, the key to successful investing in yourself is simple. You learn the thing, you listen to the talk, you watch the course, you listen to the podcast, whatever it is, and then you practice those skills that you learn. It's just a simple process, a rinse and repeat of learn and then practice what you learned over and over again consistently for a long time. It's a simple formula to understand, but a very difficult one to execute, which is why most people do not achieve success. One simple tip that comes to mind is to surround yourself with 5 people that are better than you are, that are more successful than you are. Because what'll happen is you'll feel the social pressure of their success, and you'll do everything you can to rise up, to improve, so that you can meet them at their level. A simple way to execute this would be that next time you have a job, look for other freelancers that you can hire that are better at that job than you are, so that you can watch them on set and collaborate with them and learn from them. Okay, to sum it up, you can invest in 4 main ways in a creative career. You can invest in a business or your personal brand. You can invest in equipment. You can invest in your network or relationships. And you can invest in yourself. Ideally, invest in all of them. But know that because you're doing this over a long period of time, you'll go through seasons where some of those 4 pillars will get invested in at different rates than others. And you may have like a lopsided sort of roof for a little while. So if 3 of those 4 pillars are like super tall and well built, but the 4th one is lacking, that can quickly become a barrier. And if you can spot that and plug all your resources into building that last thing up, you can explode. Work on building a strong foundation now so that when that opportunity comes your way, you are ready. You've got everything you need to make that sale. In the next video and the final part of this 4-part series, simply titled How to Succeed, I'm going to recap everything we've learned so far. I'll talk about what a personal brand is and why it's important. And I'll dive into the big picture a little bit more to try and give you some more concrete strategies for how to succeed in the creative industry. And of course, if you got some value from this video, you know what to do. I'll see you there.